I kind of went into it with the idea that this is normal for them, so I need to accept this. I can't be expecting or hoping it will be like America and what I'm used to. And before I went on my mission, I never really liked eating fish. So it was funny because my first 2 days on the mission, I had fish both days. You kind of get used to it pretty quick. It's really different because at least where I served and most of the time when I ate fish, they don't even really skin it or anything. So you have like the scales on it is just fried. And you get to pick it apart and take all the meat out away from the bones and eat it. And the meat is actually really good. I like eating fish now. I don't like the scales as much, but I like eating fish now. One thing that you will kind of learn to understand is at first the food might taste a little different to you. That's natural because they use different ingredients, different ways of cooking and stuff than what we're used to, like I was saying. But you do get used to it and you learn to love it. Something that happened to me was towards the end of my mission, I was like comparing at the end American food and Filipino food, and I was like, they both taste good, but it's like a different kind of good. Like in America, I'll eat cake or lasagna or something like that because it tastes delicious and I want to eat it. But in the Philippines, it's like, I'm going to have some lumpia right now because that sounds good. So it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but you might find yourself thinking the same thing by the end of your mission. A couple of my favorite Filipino foods would definitely be lumpia. It's basically like a Filipino version of an egg roll. They wrap it up in whatever kind of wrap it is, and usually it's fried. There's like vegetarian ones, pork, beef. Sometimes they have chicken, just depends on the person. Another thing that I love to eat was bola, which is actually just a meatball. Sometimes it has sauce, sometimes it doesn't. But I loved eating those because I could stretch it out with my rice. So one thing that you're going to have to learn to love is rice because it's like the staple of the Philippines. And a lot of the time, if you speak to someone who's completely Filipino, they grew up there, they don't really have very many, if any, outside influences in their lives, they believe that if you don't eat rice with every meal, you're going to get a stomach ache and you're going to get sick. It's like part of their culture. You have rice with everything. Unless it's a snack. Then it's kind of depends on what the snack is. But every meal must have rice. So what I kind of learned to do, because a lot of the times, in my areas at least, we ate out. There were times whenever we didn't have meal appointments, especially for every meal, like lunch or whatever. You go to a carinderia, and I would always try to find the cheapest food I could. So rice can be kind of expensive, depends on where you go. When I was there, it varied between 5 and 7 pesos, which definitely is not that bad, but you can't think about it like American money because it's not. So it's funny because like Filipinos would have these big meals at the calendaria or whatever for like 30, 40 or something like that pesos, and I could fill myself up completely off of like 20 or less pesos if I needed to. With a lot of rice and whatever other thing I can get with the rice for the rest of the money that it cost. A couple other favorite things. Showy is delicious. It is like the best. You're going to find hopefully places called I Heart Showy and you need to go to them. That is probably the food I miss the most is showy. They have this delicious sauce that you dip it in, and it's like kind of spicy, but not really, and it's just amazing. It's like a little dumpling. It's like a dumpling about this big around, and like that tall, depending on what it is. Sometimes they're a little thicker, but it's just like a dumpling. I think most of the time in the Philippines it's beef, but I'm not totally sure. I never really asked, but you get however many showy, they give you the sauce, you put some sili in it to make it a little hotter. And then you dip the showy in it, take a bite or the whole thing if you want, depending on how big it is. And then you just eat your rice with it. Because you have to spread the rice out throughout the meal. But showy is so good. I need to learn how to make the sauce here because, like I said, that's what I miss the most probably, as far as food goes. Showy is really close to it, kind of. But I wasn't a very big fan of Showy because it's a lot more doughy, a lot less meat to it. Mango floats. You need to find mango floats because those things are delicious. Without giving too much information, you do need to be careful with the foods that you eat and the places that you go to, especially when you're new. Doesn't matter how long you're there, if you eat bad food, you're going to get sick. But they have a certain way that they cook eggplant there. And at the beginning of my mission, I thought it was alright. Put some vinegar on it and eat it. It tastes pretty good. But in my third area, there was one time where I ate it and it tasted a little funny whenever I started to eat it. But I figured, what the heck, I'm going to finish it anyways if I'm paying for it, which was a terrible mistake. Because after that was lunch, we were like on our way to another appointment, and before we ever even got there, I started feeling really bad. I started like crouching down, trying to catch my breath, see if it would go away, and it didn't. So I started to go back to the apartment because I felt horrible. And suffice it to say, I was sick for the next 5 or 6 hours and spent a decent amount of that time in the bathroom.